My name is Emily, I'm 28, and on my birthday, my mom handed me a cake that was already half gone. Everyone was laughing, phones out, like this was the funniest thing they'd seen all year. She grinned and said she had pulled it out of the trash behind the store, like that was some kind of joke about how resourceful she was. I just stared at the smeared frosting and the empty space where someone else's slices had been, and for a second, I honestly felt like that missing half was me. That was the moment I stopped trying to pretend my family was normal. I had driven to that fancy burger place in the suburbs hoping, stupidly, that maybe this year would be different. That maybe they would see me as more than the struggling freelance daughter who never quite adds up. Instead, I got a garbage cake, a room full of people laughing at me, and one perfect opportunity. I didn't flip the table, I didn't scream or cry. I leaned down to my uncle's ear, kept my voice steady, and said 7 quiet words that wiped the smile right off his face. I told him I knew about the insurance. 2 weeks later, the same people who laughed at my trash cake were calling me nonstop, panicking in ways they never had when I was the one hurting. If your own mother turned your birthday into a joke, and you were sitting on a secret that could blow up everything, would you swallow it to keep the peace? Or do what I did and finally light the match? The crazy part is, none of this started with the cake. It started a few days earlier when my cousin texted me, "Hey, your mom is planning something for your birthday. Don't freak out, just show up, okay?" Kara has always been the only one in my family who talks to me like I'm a real person, not a disappointment with Wi-Fi. So I believed her when she said it might actually be nice. I'd just finished another 12-hour day of freelance design work that barely covered rent and groceries. And the last thing I wanted was to sit at a table while everyone compared my life to my sister's. But Kara said the place was cute, a nice burger spot in the suburbs, and that my mom seemed excited. So I did what I always do. I pushed down the dread, put on makeup, and tried to convince myself that maybe this time they wouldn't make me feel like garbage. I drove out from my tiny apartment, past rows of neat little houses with perfectly trimmed lawns, and pulled into the parking lot of this trendy burger place with Edison bulbs, reclaimed wood tables, and an oversized American flag on the wall. It smelled like grilled bacon and overpriced truffle fries. When I walked in, my mom was already at the table, sitting straight-backed like a queen at the head of a long wooden table. Brittany was next to her, scrolling through Instagram, manicure on full display. My dad sat on the other side, shoulders slightly hunched, the human version of background noise. My Uncle Mark, my mom's brother, was mid-story, talking way too loudly about a coworker who couldn't handle pressure and got fired. "Hey, birthday girl," my mom called out, standing up just enough to air kiss my cheek. "You look nice. Finally wearing something a little more feminine, huh?" I glanced down at my simple black dress and ankle boots. It wasn't anything special, but the way she said it made it feel like a backhanded compliment wrapped in a smile. "Hi," I said, sliding into the empty chair next to Kara. She squeezed my hand under the table for a second, her eyes saying what her mouth couldn't in front of everyone else. "I'm here. You're not alone." Brittany barely glanced up. "Oh my God, look at this reel." She laughed, turning her phone toward my mom. It was some influencer unboxing a luxury bag. "We should totally go shopping this weekend. There's this new mall. They have a Tesla showroom and everything." "Maybe for your promotion celebration," my mom said proudly. Can you believe it? She's only 25 and already moving up. Such a hard worker. My dad muttered something like, "Yeah, proud of you, kiddo," without looking up from his drink. "So, my Uncle Mark leaned back in his chair, eyeing me. "Still doing that art thing?" "Graphic design," I corrected, because apparently after 3 years he still refused to remember the actual words. "Yeah, I'm freelancing right now." "Freelancing. he repeated with a smirk, as if I'd just said imagining money into existence. Must be nice, working when you feel like it. When I was your age, I was doing overtime every week. No excuses. It's not really like that, I said, trying to keep my voice even. If I don't work, I don't get paid. Well, my mom cut in. Maybe if you stopped chasing these creative projects and just got a normal office job, you wouldn't be so stressed about bills. Stability isn't a bad word, you know. Kara shifted next to me, clearly uncomfortable. She's doing good, Aunt Susan, she said quietly. She sent me her portfolio. It's cool. That's cute, honey, my mom said without looking at her. But likes and little passion projects don't pay for retirement. Brittany laughed softly, not even bothering to hide it. At least she doesn't have to deal with office politics, she said. Corporate is brutal. Corporate is adulthood, my mom replied. Right, Mark? Exactly, he said, taking a swig of his beer. People today are soft. They want flexibility, remote work, mental health days. He made air quotes like the words physically offended him. Back in my day, you got hurt. You took your meds. You went back to work. I felt my jaw tighten at that sentence, for reasons no one at that table realized yet. I stabbed at my salad to keep my hands busy. My dad finally looked up long enough to say, "Let's just have a nice dinner, okay?" But he said it the way someone throws a blanket over a fire without checking if there's gasoline underneath. The waitress came by, cheerful and oblivious, asking if we needed anything. My mom ordered another round of drinks, making a point of saying, "It's her birthday. Put it on my card." You. She said it loud enough for two nearby tables to hear, like she was performing the role of generous, loving mother for an audience. I sat there listening to them talk about promotions, bonuses, vacations, all the ways their lives were moving forward, while mine was treated like a bad life choice they all had to tolerate. Have you ever sat in a room full of people who are supposed to love you and felt like the only way you exist is as a punchline? I kept telling myself I could survive one dinner, just smile, nod, pretend the little digs didn't land. I had no idea that the worst one was still coming, waiting in the kitchen, under a layer of chocolate frosting and melted candles. When the food finally came, I told myself it would get better once everyone's mouths were full. For a few minutes, it almost did. Burgers hit the table, fries, onion rings, my salad with grilled chicken that I'd ordered more out of guilt than desire. There was the clink of glasses, my mom raising hers and saying, "To Emily, may this be the year she finally finds some stability." Everyone chuckled like that was a sweet little joke, and I forced a smile, my throat tight. I counted down in my head. Just eat. Make small talk. Go home. Survive. I was halfway through pushing food around my plate when the lights dimmed slightly, and a cluster of servers started walking toward our table, one of them carrying something with sparklers sticking out of it. For a second, my chest lifted. Maybe they'd actually gotten me a real cake, something nice. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this was my family trying. Then I saw it. It was a chocolate cake on a white platter, but only half of it was actually there. The other half was just gone. The frosting on the cut side was smeared and messy, like someone had dragged a knife through it in a hurry, and there were streaks of crumbs stuck to the empty part of the plate. There was one crooked candle shoved into the remaining half, already leaning to the side. The table erupted into laughter before the servers had even finished singing. "Oh my God, Mom!" Brittany wheezed, already pulling out her phone. "What is this?" My mom put a hand over her chest, pretending to look innocent and proud at the same time. "Isn't it hilarious?" she said. "I picked it out of the trash behind the store. Can you believe people throw away perfectly good cake?" The servers were trying so hard to stay polite, but even they looked confused. I just stared at the half-eaten cake, my brain struggling to catch up. "You got my birthday cake?" Out of the trash? I said slowly. Relax, she laughed, waving her hand. I'm kidding. Mostly. It was from the discount section. Someone returned it or something. It's still fine. We're not picky, right? My Uncle Mark slapped the table, laughing so hard his face turned red. Now that is what I call saving money, he said. A trash cake. That's a good story. Brittany was already filming, the camera pointed at me, waiting to catch my reaction. Guys, look, she said into her phone. Mom literally found Em's birthday cake in the trash. Say hi, Em. She zoomed in on my face like I was part of some prank content. My cheeks burned. The whole restaurant wasn't looking, but it felt like they were. Somewhere behind me, a kid at another table yelled, "You, trash cake!" And his parents shushed him, but the words stuck. Kara shifted in her seat beside me. That's not funny, she muttered, too quiet for anyone but me to hear. It's just a joke, my mom insisted, still laughing. You know we love you. Come on, blow out your candle. Make a wish. Maybe wish for a real job. The table exploded again. I looked at the candle, at the half cake, at the smear of chocolate on the plate where someone else's fingers had probably been. I thought about the months I'd spent juggling invoices, late payments, maxed out credit cards. I thought about the times my mom had said, if you'd just listened to me and gone into something practical, you wouldn't be in this mess. I thought about Mark's little speech earlier, about getting hurt, taking your meds, going back to work, and the way he'd said it with that smug, knowing tone. Something inside me finally snapped, but it didn't explode the way I expected. It went cold. I leaned in, blew out the candle in one breath, and smiled. Not for the camera, not for them. For me. Aren't you going to have a slice? Brittany asked, still recording. I'm good, I said. My voice sounded oddly calm, like it belonged to someone older and tired of pretending. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping against the floor. Whoa, where are you going? My mom said, her laughter faltering. We're just getting started. I picked up my bag and stepped around my chair. I've had enough, I said. Then I turned toward my Uncle Mark. He was still grinning, but there was this flicker in his eyes, the tiniest hint of nerves, like he remembered saying something he shouldn't have in front of me once upon a time. I leaned down so my mouth was right next to his ear. The table quieted just enough that I could hear the sizzle of the kitchen and the low country song playing over the speakers. I know about the insurance, I whispered. 7 words. That's all it took. His body went stiff. The smile slid off his face like someone had pulled the plug. His hand, still wrapped around his beer bottle, suddenly tightened. What? He said, barely moving his lips. I straightened up, looked him dead in the eye, and gave him the smallest, fakest smile I've ever managed. Enjoy the cake, I said. Then I turned and walked away, feeling their confusion chasing me down the aisle between the tables, my mom calling my name, Brittany asking if she'd gotten that on video. I didn't stop. I walked out of the restaurant, into the cool night air, my heart pounding but my mind clearer than it had been in years. 2 weeks later, the same uncle who laughed the loudest at my trash cake would be blowing up my phone, begging me to talk, acting like I was the one holding a grenade. And maybe I was. Because if you're wondering what insurance I was talking about, and why those 7 words scared him more than any screaming match ever could, you have to go back with me to 4 months before that dinner, when I was just trying to help my mom clean out her old laptop. 4 months before that dinner, I was sitting at my mom's kitchen table, staring at a pile of old electronics she'd dragged out of the hall closet. There was a tangle of cords, an ancient printer, and the laptop she'd been complaining about for months.